Classical Approaches by Kelly Shepard. In this presentation, we will look at the history and evolution of the classical approach to business. We will look at some of the pioneers and innovators. Frederick W. Taylor was born in Philadelphia in 1856. He was a pioneer in workplace efficiency and one of the fathers of the classical approach. He once said, "Work consists mainly of simple, not particularly interesting tasks. The only way to get people to do them is to incentivize them properly and monitor them carefully." After attending school, he began working at the Midvale Steel Company. There he became fascinated with time management. He suggested that production efficiency in a shop or factory could be greatly enhanced by close observation of the individual worker, elimination of waste, and motion in his operation. Thus he began his shovel experiment. It was commonplace for the workers to bring their shovels from home to work with, so you can imagine that they had all different sizes and types of shovels to work with. He tested the workers with different shovels and different shoveling techniques. The Taylor system provoked resentment and opposition from labor when carried to the extremes. In the end, Taylor was able to make the workers and management happy by creating a system that streamlined the shoveling to not only produce more coal shoveled, but did it in less time. Workers were better paid, and management had the needed coal to produce the steel. The points that Taylor created were: 1. The method of doing a task should be informed by a scientific investigation of the task. 2. Employees should be selected and carefully trained for tasks. 3. Management should evaluate tasks and formulate optimized approaches for the workers to follow. And 4. Tasks should have detailed instructions and should be subject to supervision. Many of the terms that we use today in business are from Taylor that you might recognize, such as process analysis, process mapping, process optimization, standardization of best practices, elimination of waste, efficiency measures, mass production, knowledge of transfer, documentation of processes. Max Weber was another pioneer in classical business. He was a German that proposed the bureaucratic form, which was logical, rational, and supposedly efficient. He was naive when he suggested that it would work for all organizations. A simple example would be if you ever spent time at the DMV to register your vehicle. Henry Foyle managed a large coal mine in France and defined several principles and functions of management, such as division of labor, authority and responsibility, unity of command, which basically says that all of the management were on the same page. Line of authority, meaning that the person at the bottom knew exactly who they needed to go to get questions answered above them. They know who their boss is, and they knew who their boss's boss was. Centralization, unity of direction, meaning everyone's going towards the same goal. Equity, order, there's a certain order to things. Initiative, discipline, remuneration of personnel, meaning they have the right amount of people for the number of jobs. Stability of tenure, that gives you that have worked here longer the ability to stay on when the layoffs happen. General interest over individual interest, that means the whole group is together and is more important than the one. And esprit de corps, which is a sense of belonging. Now we're going to look at some American classic innovators. Henry Ford, we all know from the Ford Motor Company, created innovation that we will see in this video by American experience.
On January 1st, 1910, Ford moved his production line to a vast new factory on the outskirts of Detroit called Highland Park. He declared the company would soon achieve his ambitious goal of producing 1,000 Model Ts a day.
His whole business model is to sell a cheap product, and the way that you create cheap products is by making more of them in a shorter amount of time.
While Ford was able to make the machine parts quickly, assembling the cars bogged down the process.
A friend of Ford's once compared him to a kind of boxer, tiptoeing and dancing around the factory floor all the time, thinking about what could we do here, what could we do there, how could we change the production process to make the car better and cheaper and bring out even more of them.
While they're groping about for improvement, someone begins to think about the meatpacking plant where the carcass of a hog or a cow is hung on a conveyor and moves through the plant past meat cutters who cut pieces off the animal. What if we turn that around? What if we put in some machine that we want to assemble and we move it past people and we have people put things on?
Ford's team tried out the idea in the flywheel magneto department, where the device that generated electricity for the ignition system was made. Rather than having one person build a coil at a time, a supervisor broke down the individual tasks into a sequence driven by a conveyor. The new system reduced the time it took to make a magneto from 20 minutes to 13 minutes, 10 seconds.
And then somebody says, well, if it works on magnetos, what about transmissions? What about axles? Well, what about engines? Productivity goes way up. Time to produce a car goes down. And they realize we're really on to something here.
Our next innovators are two brothers born in New Hampshire. They made their way to California and started a restaurant which they decided to streamline. Here's how they created their classic innovation.
How the heck did you come up with this?
Oh, I didn't. We did. Dick McDonald, my brother.
Hi. Boy, I gotta tell you, this is the most... The McDonald's brothers, what those two boys created, changed everything. This changed everything.
Care for a little tour? Speed! That's the name of the game. The first stop for every McDonald's hamburger is the grill, manned by two cooks whose sole job it is to grill those all-beef beauties to perfection. Meanwhile, as the patty cooks, our dressers get the buns ready. Watch out. Burger crossing. Mac and Dick McDonald stumbled onto a new system to fix the ills of the drive-in business, essentially, which is what they were in when they started.
They're sort of the Henry Ford of fast food. So they developed this choreographed way that food could be made in 30 seconds rather than 30 minutes.
We wanted something different, and that's when my brother here comes up with one of those brilliant ideas. Tell him, Dick.
Orders ready in 30 seconds, not 30 minutes.
And you were going to love how we did it, Dick. You got to tell him.
Tennis court?
Okay. He brings me up to this tennis court, and he's drawn this line, the exact dimensions of our kitchen.
Sink on the right, extruder on the left.
Okay. And Dick is running around with this stick, marking where all the equipment should be.
Tuck in. Tony, are you going to skip the pickles when we're really doing it? Yes. No. No. Catch up! Here's your lazy Susan. And pickles, and pickle, and mustard!
The Speed D system is born, and it's off to the races. And we are in overnight sensation 30 years now.
After seeing the innovations that the classical system has produced, it's hard to imagine that there are downsides associated with these classical procedures. But let's look at them now. Low morale, high absenteeism, high turnover rates, difficulty adapting to certain circumstances, and low levels of innovation. Why do they have these problems? Well, when you look at the McDonald's, they talked about having their sole job being to flip burgers and fry the burger itself to the perfect consistency or the way it's cooked. There was another person that was only in charge of the buns and making sure the buns were ready to go. They're very boring jobs, and basically a monkey could do them in a lot of places. And people don't feel challenged, and they don't feel like it's really what they want to do with the rest of their lives for a lot of people. And so that's the problem with the classical system. But there are good things, like incredible efficiency, uniformity, and predictability. Incredible efficiency. They went from having your burger ready in 30 minutes down to 30 seconds. Uniformity, every burger was exactly the same. And predictability, you knew exactly what you were supposed to be doing, and you got the product. Even now, if you go to a McDonald's in Japan, it's going to taste exactly than anywhere downtown USA. It all is very predictable, and it's very comfortable because of that. The classics, this system may not be best for all businesses, but for businesses like McDonald's, Ford, and many others that need quality and predictability, it works very well. Can you think of some other businesses that would benefit from the classical approach to business? Here's a list of my references that I used in making this presentation. Thank you for your time.